Week number 4, the final week of RTN season, is in the books, and this week marks a brand new meta, so let's reflect on the results of week 4, because it's going to project out into this new meta, if you will, into ProQuest season eventually, and then, of course, into the Pro Tour at London. So, week number 4, the removal of the best deck in the format via the LL system. The LL system does its work, Viserai makes his way out of the format, and who usurps his throne? Well, one that was not too far from it to begin with, and that's Aurora Shooting Star. Look, if you were wondering who people were going to pivot to after they left Mr. Purple Guy himself, turns out they're not going very far. They're staying in class, and this is just conjecture, of course, but this is what I would have expected to happen, and I kind of expected Aurora to be towards the top, if not at the top of the list, and it turns out she is, because what's easier than pivoting to a hero that's already good in the same class with using a very similar equipment suite to what you already have access to, and then just playing out a very solid, consistent, aggressive game plan into just about every hero? Well, that's exactly what people, I think, kind of followed along with, because Aurora has 18 wins, more than double that of any other hero on the board. But right behind her is who shocked me the most, because, of course, tied with Syndra for second most points won this weekend, second most wins, if you will, is Zen, Tamer of Purpose. Look, here's the thing. I did not expect Zen to charge back this hard. I did not expect Zen to charge back this completely. But y'all proved me wrong, because y'all made his number go to another number. And that's something that you can do here, as I beg you to make the number go to another number right above me. If you press the subscribe button, that number above me goes up. Isn't that cool how that works? It's like cause and effect. But either way, tides go in, tides come out. Who even knows? Zen, why is he here? Why is he at the top of the list? Well, if you're looking at this new meta and you're saying to yourself, I want to take a hero that is consistent. I want to take a hero that has reasonable matchups into everyone and is not absolutely just pooped on by a specific deck. I want to take a ninja. I want to take someone that can have some big turns. Well, you have two ninjas here at the top. You have Syndra, who has at this point been proven to have some cracks in her armor, some exploitations that can be employed via deck building, a deck that is pure red line that really thrives on a no block environment and no disruption being presented to her. Well, if disruption enters the fray in the form of something like a Yarl, or if people start playing hate cards into her that she really can't block or engage with, her stock goes down, and that's kind of what we saw in week 3. So I think there was a prediction made by the overall meta and the overall community, and they said, okay, if we take a step back from Syndra, maybe the luster has worn a bit. Who can we pivot to that has that consistency and has pretty reasonable matchups across the board? Well, it's Zen. He has the ability to play through some amount of disruption. He can block, and he's okay blocking, and yet at the same time, he can still send absolutely crazy chase your tail turns. And if you just play to those outs, then he does pretty well for you, and that's why he returned. Again, you could also make the argument that he has a pretty solid matchup into New. You could also make an argument that he can put in 6 power attacks fairly easily into his deck if you're worried about Prism. And he has the ability to put a Zen state on the board at any given moment versus someone like a Vynnset. And look who's right after both of these heroes. After Syndra, of course, who is very good still in the meta and tied for second place. New. Alluring Desire, still very good, and inching ever closer to Living Legend status with 7 wins. And then tied for 5th is Prism, Awakener of Soul, and Vynnset. Those are the 2 heroes that I honestly expected to be sitting like 3 and 4 or 3 and 5, with Prism sitting at 3 and Vynnset sitting at 5, respectively. I did not expect Zen to charge back in to the top 3. And instead, I expected those 2 heroes. I really thought Prism would be one of the top 3 decks of this meta, of this week, I should say. And I still kind of hold to that. I think Prism is a very unique answer to what some of these aggro decks want to do. But I will say that perhaps there's enough counterplay going on in some of these top tier decks that they can actually just race her, or they can side in some hate cards to keep her down a little bit. That being said, going forward, The two heroes that I most have on my radar to really be dark horse and like come out of nowhere is Prism and Vynnset. Vynnset does have the capacity to be countered a little bit with disruption, but in a meta that's not really presenting a ton of it, you're going to have to tech your deck specifically for her, or you're just going to have a naturally good matchup into Vynnset because she can just kind of roll you. In a large-scale tournament, maybe it's a little harder and maybe it's a bit more variance-focused, but in smaller tournaments and pro quests and things like that, she can just show up and win, and that's what she did. She won 6 events this smaller Week 4 weekend. Florian, Verdance, and Enigma all had 5 wins respectively. Florian was one of those heroes that I expected some Viserai players to pivot to. Why? Well, he does a similar thing to like Viserai with Mordred Tide, or Viserai playing like the slow and steady game plan of building up rune chants. So he can do that. He can also play aggressively. I've been playing against some people in Classic Constructed that are playing the 0-for-4s and swing the Reaping Blade style, where they, like try to play a pseudo Viserai game plan. I'll be honest with you, I'm not impressed with either of those game plans from Mr. Florian here, but I don't have to be impressed with him for him to pick up wins. And he picked up 5 alongside of Verdance, who I think continues to still be fairly good in the meta, though I would argue probably takes a little bit of a step back now that Viserai and the meta starts to change around the lack of Viserai. And Enigma, a hero that even though she has 5 wins, it feels like she's in the lowest spot she's ever been in her less than 1 year of life. Keep that in mind. Holy crap, everyone. It has been less than 1 year since that set released. Part the Mistveil came out less than a year ago, and yet all 3 of its heroes are within about 250 points of hitting the Living Legend status. What does that tell you about that set? It tells you it was strong. Perhaps too strong, but it really just depends on how long you want your lifespan of your heroes to be. I would prefer it to be a little longer, and therefore I would have liked to see those heroes be a little less powerful. I'm sure many people would agree with me. If you do, leave a comment down below. Arachne Marionette at 4, and Fang just out of nowhere with 3. I will say this, I think Fang has consistently gotten a win or 2 in every one of the weeks, except I think last week. In fact, I can pull it up right now. We can actually show this by turning this on and turning that off. There's week 3, and Fang is not on the board. I think this was the only week that he did not pick up a win, because I think if we go to week 2, I think he's there towards the bottom. Yes, he picked up a win. And then in week 1, he also picked up 2, if I remember correctly. Nope, just 1. So this week, he picks up 3. Whoa! Warriors returning? Is this a warrior meta? No, it's not. It's not a warrior meta. But does he have a little bit more space to work with? Maybe. Maybe. I like him. I think he's very fun, but perhaps a distant 3rd place. Well, maybe not even that distance now that Marionette has taken a step back as well. Perhaps not a distant 3rd from the set, but I'll tell you what, he is really fun to play, and perhaps one of the best, if not the best, warriors in the game right now. Maybe one hero would argue that, and we'll see her down here in a moment, because Arachne slipped through the cracks, got 2 wins. Victor comes out of nowhere as a possible answer to Syndra, with on-hit effects and crush effects that really punish that deck. Picks up 2 wins. Dash.io goes fast, picks up 2 wins. Azalea crawls to the finish line of Living Legend status with 2 wins as well. Getting very close. Keep that in mind. My buddy Ian actually sent a message in our group chat, and he was like, hey, do y'all remember when Azalea had a literal bounty on her head to get Living Legend points for that deck? And I was like, oh yeah. That wasn't that long ago. That's what he said. It was not that long ago, and he was correct. But Azalea getting fairly close. Ira Scarlet Revenger picking up a couple wins. Kasai shows up again. What is Kasai doing to show up and pick up a win? Probably playing defensively and probably running you out of threats. It could very well be that, but Kasai has a fairly decent value engine that she can set up. Levia picks up a win. Dorinthia Ironsong picks up a win. So those two are dueling for 2nd place in the warrior category. Yarl takes a huge step back. I did not expect that. I expected, well, there was a world that I was living in where I thought Yarl could either charge forward as a direct response to the aggro decks, or take a giant leap back if Prism and Enigma switched over to the board state versions, and then just kind of pooped on Yarl in a way. And maybe that's the one we live in. I'm not sure. But Kano also somehow got a win, because what? Why? Who? Where? And other things. But yeah, I'm surprised because here's week 3. Kano didn't pick up a win. I think week 2, Kano didn't pick up a win. No, Kano picked up 2 wins. Okay, so it was just week 3 where he dodged the bullet of wins. He's not getting close, but he's getting close-ish. Close adjacent. Let's look at it. Here's the Living Legend leaderboard, and Zen Tamer of Purpose is balanced precariously on a knife's edge. 961 Living Legend points of 1,000, and keep in mind, 2 Battle-Hardened wins at this point puts him over the top. I want to see what Battle-Hardens are coming up, actually. But Zen very clearly could LL at any moment. If you sneezed hard enough, he could gain the requisite amount of points. 39 points is all he needs to cross the old Rainbow Bridge. Right behind him, Dash is never going to move again. That's just not going to happen. Azalea, ace in the hole, 842. Very close to LLing as well. She would need a little more help, or she would need the meta to shift in such a way that the upcoming ProQuest season, is very good for her. If the upcoming ProQuest season is very good for her, then I could see her going in a singular season. But even if that weren't the case, maybe it is the case, because New, I think, has only picked up points this go-around. I can't think of a single battle-hardened or calling or anything higher win in this hunted season. So I think 159 points literally came from the RTN season. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But if that's the case, then Azalea has a world where she could LL, but it would take a meta shift, I think. I think she's just a Dark Horse type deck that could win ProQuests, but not going to win enough ProQuests to really push herself out of the format. Phi's not really going to move at all. But look at this. Enigma and New are about 250 points respectively away from LLing as well. We could conceivably see in a single year, New, Enigma, and Zen all hit the old Living Legend status, which would be that'd be a shock to the system a little bit. Those heroes have been meta-defining, and some could say meta-warping the entire lifespan of Part the Mistveil, and yet they could make their way out very soon. What would that do for the meta? Well, that's another video entirely. But look at Aurora, sitting at 180 points from this season. She's about halfway there. I don't really see her going very quickly, and I don't think she should. I think it would be very bad for the game if Aurora Shooting Star makes her way out, for the same reason that it would have been very bad for KO making his way out of the format previous to this, because she is going to be anchoring the new player side, so the new player acquisition side, I'll be more specific, of the game, I think, for the foreseeable future. And if she starts to creep up too quickly, I think LSS really needs to go back to the drawing board, pick a hero that is similar in either playstyle or approachability to Aurora, and build another set of First Strike decks. They probably already have it in the old can there, and they're probably pushing it out, but they need to get more First Strike decks into player hands and build another Armory deck, because that process of going from First Strike deck to Armory deck is the way that you can onboard players, particularly if the Armory deck that she's getting in a couple of weeks, or I think next week, 2 weeks, I think, something like that, is a pretty solid one from what it appears to be. Pretty solid overall. Prism, I expect to be moving a little bit here, and then Syndra has charged forward, but I think is going to slow over time. I think Syndra is the KO of the set. She's going to charge forward very strongly, and then KO has been consistently getting little bits of points here and there. So she does seem like a deck that you could latch onto and play for a bit of a longer term. I think she's going to be one of the better decks in the format going forward until Ice really becomes a thing, or until we get a very heavily disruptive format from a hand size perspective. So what would that take? Guardians. It would take Guardians. And what happens in summer? Guardian Mastery Pack. So if you're thinking that Guardians are the answer to Syndra, well, then Syndra could be around for a good while longer, because there will be answers on the way. And of course, you know they're gonna print ample answers to this meta in high seas, because once Pirates hit the field, they are just going to sweep everything, right? It's going to be like a flood. They're just going to pour over all the meta and just dominate, right? I think that's exactly what Pirates are going to do to this meta. So I think this is going to be a really fun next couple of weeks, looking at the events going forward and how this meta is going to shift a little bit. And we very well could see Zen go away. And of course, if you're curious, here is what's coming up in March and in April. March skirmish season, we're going to talk about tomorrow. Skirmish season, both LL and Blitz, which has been my favorite format for a while and continues to be my favorite format. I've been playing it incessantly. It's just so good. Blitz, we'll talk about the tier list in that format and how it could change or could not change in this new skirmish season 11. Battle hardened in Taipei, battle hardened in Charlotte, the calling in Kobe, the calling in Sao Paulo, battle hardened in Eindhoven, and then the battle hardened in Milwaukee, which I am fortunate enough to get to commentate for the illustrious Min-Max Games. Okay, they're bringing me on to do commentary for the first ever, world's first Team Classic Constructed event. So if you and your friends are going to play in the Team Classic Constructed event and you want to give me your thoughts, want to give me your stories, want to give me anything that you want me to share with the stream, I want to tell your story. I want people to know about you and your friends and the craziness that you're cooking up. So if you have anything you want me to share, just reach out to me via Discord. Hop in my Discord, send me like a message, slide into my DMs, and tell me all that you want to tell me about this format, about Classic Constructed, about you and your friends, and how they're going to be going to that brand new format event. That's going to be really exciting. And then, of course, in April, everything leads up to the Pro Tour London, where several of those heroes that we talked about previous could be hitting the LL circuit. They could be making their way into the Living Legend format permanently. So there you go. There you have it. That is the brand new meta. What do you think? Let me know in a comment below. And of course, if you want to make the number go to another number and support the channel, I would be forever in your debt, forever in your favor, because you would make this number eventually get to a 6. Everybody knows 6s are cool, like snakes. They like kind of curl like snakes. As always, thanks for watching.